Good evening. This is MistuhSoftee with a Dawn of War 2 Retribution Elite Modcast. Today we have a 1v1 on Ashes of Typhon. Our first player today is Demon Hunter, also known as Torpid, playing as the Lord General. The Lord General is the only hero who is a squad. He has a stormtrooper retinue, and you can also get other retinue members such as a commissar, a sergeant, and a vox operator. He can fight in range. He can be very durable because he can reinforce out on the field. He can also tie things up pretty nicely because of how durable he is, and every one of his war gears has an ability which is used for buffing his troops. His opponent is MistuhSoftee. Some ice cream right here. A little hard to target, but he is playing as the Eldar Warlock. The Warlock is a melee hero. He fights in melee. However, he does also have a lot of spell casting capabilities. Starts out with Destructor, which is very powerful against Imperial Guard. Immolate is also pretty good against Imperial Guard, and he has quite a few spells up his sleeve as well. So you can kind of decide what you want to make of him. With a triple Dire Avenger build for MistuhSoftee out on the field, this is a lot of range firepower that he has gotten very cheaply. And it can be very effective against Imperial Guard, particularly against the Sentinel if you have multiple Dire Avenger squads going after a Sentinel, especially because, first of all, they're pretty cheap for how much range damage they do. They go a little bit faster than most other ranged units because their speed is 5.5 instead of 5, and they also have fleet, so they can definitely chase down and pressure a Sentinel. I'd say a bit better than many other of the starting range squads. Shooter boys, if anything, probably tend to do a little bit better just because their damage is even higher and their damage is concentrated in only 2 models. Now, part of the risk that MistuhSoftee is going to have to deal with, though, is the bleed that he will suffer from these Dire Avengers. The Dire Avengers, although they put out a lot of damage, their individual models are pretty weak. So it might be good for MistuhSoftee that he's already gotten 2 out of 3 possible Dire Avenger aspects, which is going to increase the health of his squads a little bit, as well as giving him that fleet ability. And fleet he can use to either run away. He can also set up the energy shields. Well, not fleet, but he can use the aspect to set up the energy shields, and that will greatly minimize the effectiveness of the Sentinel. Now, in this case, we have a Sentinel actually being very brazen, going right up to the Dire Avengers, pressuring them. MistuhSoftee actually just retreats out of there, probably expecting a Sentinel Stomp, even though neither of these Sentinels actually have the Stomp upgraded yet. And I actually have a feeling that Torpid will probably hold off on getting that Stomp upgrade, since he actually really doesn't need it. The main benefit he would get out of it would be an extra 100 health, but he doesn't actually have any melee units really to counter from MistuhSoftee, aside from, I guess, the Warlock. And he can definitely just focus down the Warlock with what he has right now. Alright, MistuhSoftee getting pushed back quite a bit. However, because he's pushed back, that also means he's going to be coming out of base with every single one of his units. So again, that's a lot of range firepower coming out of triple Dire Avengers and now a Shuriken Cannon. And we have 3 grenades just going straight onto that multi-melted turret, just taking it out pretty much instantly, which I think is a pretty nice play. Otherwise, I think it's just a smart decision to use the grenades on that multi-laser turret, even just going for, like, doing every single one of them. And wow, a Guardsman squad gets wiped already, just getting suppressed and then getting hit by all that range fire as well as the Warlock's Destructor. So already we have a Guardsman squad down for Demon Hunter. I don't think he's going to take out the Warlock. If there wasn't this wall of Eldar firepower right here, he could have chased with the Sentinels and probably would have taken the Warlock down, but doing so probably would have also meant losing at least one of the Sentinels. And the, unfortunately, accidental misclick by MistuhSoftee, and his Guardian weapon team was set up the completely wrong way. He's backing up his Guardian weapon team. He may just have to retreat it out of there because Torpid could always split his Sentinels, shoot from different sides, and repair them also while they're taking damage. And he's going to stand his Sentinels at maximum range. The Guardsmen are entirely out of range, although, well, I was going to say they are, but they're still getting hit anyway. So yeah, the Sentinel is just going to shoot at max range and get repaired at max range. It won't take that much damage from the Guardian weapon team. It does need to be careful right there, though. And there we actually had a Destructor. That Destructor didn't seem to hit quite so head-on, even though it looked like it did. It didn't actually do that much damage to the Guardsmen. And Destructor can be a little iffy like that. Sometimes it's really amazing and it's almost like too good, and other times it just doesn't seem to do much. And that was one of those second times. We do have the Guardian weapon team setting up, so we're having double Guardian weapons teams on the field right now. Now, I think certainly the reasoned response from anyone who plays Elite Mod would be that Torpid should get at least one squad of artillery spotters to help himself deal with these Guardian weapons teams. Now, right now, at least for the moment, Torpid is not doing that. He can already afford a spotter squad, but he's not choosing to do it. I have a feeling he's just going to try to go to Tier 2. In part because and he's doing that. And this is definitely what Toi La Li would do, in part because Toi La Li was such an accomplished Imperial Guard player before Elite Mod came out, and literally before the existence of spotters. So there's a way to dealing with these setup teams without artillery spotters, and Toi La Li would pretty much just say, like, you just got to improve your Sentinel play. That's like his mantra, just improve your Sentinel play. And he was also a player who did very frequently get two Sentinels. Warlock right here, definitely overextended. Could potentially go down in retreat. I think if the Sentinels kept firing and also kept chasing, he could have taken him down in retreat, but I think he just might be Torpid deciding that that's not really a priority and that it might not even happen. So he actually prioritizes harassing these Dire Avengers so that they get off the field and that they don't get a back cap on Torpid's natural. So right here, the Guardian weapon team trying to apparently set up in his face. That means he's going to need to, like, get that Sentinel out of there. Can't just stand around. This Sentinel also in a bit of trouble itself. Where is Torpid's other guardsman squad? Right here. Yeah, I was going to say he's going to need that to come and repair. Now, I think Imperial Guardsman players have generally said that IG's map control is not really that strong, and there's some interesting things. And sometimes we just say things like it's not that good, or it's good, it's bad, it's not that good, it's great. Part of what I like to do is discuss the more complex realities of it. Now, the Sentinels are really fast, so they can actually run around the map and get decaps off in ways that most other races can't really do. Oh wow, that's really brazen. This Sentinel right here gonna go down, I think. Yes, it does. Although at the same time, the Sentinels really require synergy with the Guardsmen. So the Guardsmen and the Sentinels need to be kept together. So they need to stay with each other, and that requires some unit. Basically, just requires that some of these units be around each other. And in fact, I often find that you usually want both of your Guardsmen around your Sentinels. Right now, the Sentinel could afford to get some repairs. The heavy turret could afford to manually target on this power generator. Would be very, very nice. And MistuhSoftee now going immediately for Wraith Guard, which is a unit that is traditionally considered extremely, not traditionally, I mean it just is very strong against Imperial Guard. There are ways of dealing with it, but it can be very tough to deal with it when you are not like a dedicated Imperial Guard player and you're not really versed in it. Like, even if you know like the theory of it, getting Ogryns, and wow, Demon Hunter or Torpid blindly getting Ogryns, maybe just expecting the Wraith Guard, which I think is pretty smart. Now, part of the struggles that Demon Hunter is going to have to deal with, there are double Guardian weapons teams, 2 squads that could suppress his Ogryns. He might consider getting some of the armor war gears of the Lord General. That includes getting, here we have the heavy turret now just getting destroyed by the Wraith Guard, and there's nothing the heavy turret's going to be able to do about that. So Torpid, he will inevitably want to get a Bonehead leader. He might want to get an armor war gear for the Lord General, and his choices are damage resistance, healing, or suppression immunity from the armor war gears of the Lord General. He might want to get one of those, since it'll just help his Ogryns either last longer, not lose more models, or even prevent them from getting controlled by the sources of control. MistuhSoftee, however, I didn't see it, but he lost one of his Dire Avengers. So we'll see if Torpid even chooses to get any of that. Right now, he's actually going for retinue members. He's got a sergeant for heals. I could see him doing that. He's also got the Commissar Lord to make his Lord General do more damage. And the Ogryns just retreat out of there. Certainly, the Ogryns can charge past the Wraith Guards shots, hopefully, especially with their bonehead leader. But when the Guardian weapon team is suppressing them, that's probably the worst possible situation for the Ogrins, because then that allows the Wraith Guard to just open fire, and they right now are the main source of damage against the Ogrins. The Guardian weapon teams don't do a lot of damage to the Ogrins, neither do the Dire Avengers. Although the Dire Avengers can also use their grenade in combination with the Shuriken suppression, which would actually be very effective against the Ogrins. So, and in fact, he is choosing to get one of his armors. He's choosing to get the Carapace armor. This is a very expensive war gear. There were some debates about this recently, about the Carapace armor. This is the one that makes allied units immune to suppression. I have a feeling we'll see it right here. Maybe? No, because otherwise his Ogrins are going to charge in. Maybe Torpid just realizing that he could probably get away in that engagement without using the Carapace armor. However, I think that also meant he ended up retreating his guardsman squads. That being said, he also used summary execution to keep them out on the field, which I think is pretty smart. Just needs to be a little careful. They're now approaching the Wraith Guard, and the Ogrins charge in, even knocking over some of their own units. A grenade was thrown, but the Ogrins already get in. I think now we'll see. There's the Carapace armor activation. So now the Ogrins are not even getting suppressed by the Guardian weapon team. Neither are the Guardsmen, for that matter. The only unit, in fact, the only model who gets suppressed, no, the only unit, is the Lord General. And he might even take out this Guardian weapon team. I don't think so, though. It's a close call, but I don't think so. Just the Guardian weapon team still has too much health left. It's getting away. Here is a creeping barrage that actually just gets the units out off the field, gives Torpid some time to bash generators, which I think is not a bad play. He just already had an advantage. MistuhSoftee was coming out to defend, and now he's just getting his generators bashed a little bit more. He gets more map control. Ooh, we have a Witchblade of Kurnos on the Warlock, which is an interesting choice. I think he's mostly gonna... Oh, and the Warlock goes down in retreat. So I think the Witchblade of Kurnos, just a choice for controlling the Ogrins, and it's also one that is going to... that will not be affected by the Lord General's Carapace armor. Because for whenever the Carapace armor is active, and the ability for it is called Stand Firm, the Guardian weapons teams really are not going to be that effective against the Ogrins at all, because the Ogrins just will not take that much damage from them. The Ogrins can just run right past them. The Ogrins can even run right to the Guardian weapons teams, although right now the main target for the Ogrins are the Wraith Guard. So the Wraith Guard, again, this is a unit that new players often have trouble dealing with this. You need very specific counters for the Wraith Guard, and if you don't get those counters, you really will get owned pretty hard. Specifically, you mainly need, well, let's back up a bit. You need something to tie up the Wraith Guard. Ideally, you want a melee unit to tie up the Wraith Guard, since they will not only tie up the Wraith Guard and prevent them from firing, they will also do a huge amount of damage. And then even more specifically, it's best to have a jump unit to tie up the Wraith Guard, because they can jump right onto the Wraith Guard without have to worry about getting shot on approach. Alright, so we had a few things happen right there. We had a Dire Avenger grenade. We also had an Autarch call-in. Autarch now needs to be extremely careful. She does not want to get wiped by the Ogrins, which can definitely happen if she stays in there for too long. The Autarch is a very nice unit in many ways, but she still does not exactly want to take on dedicated melee units, or at least not most of them. Maybe she can take on, like, unupgraded Sluggas if she has, like, few upgrades of her own, but otherwise she needs to be very careful around dedicated melee units who might knock her down and wipe her. So Ogrins, definitely not something she wants to be dealing with, especially not since Ogrins actually have knockback on command courtesy of their Bonehead charge ability. Alright, Wraith Guard now just going for generator bashes, and they will very quickly wipe generators. Wraith Guard are a really amazing unit in that they have both high DPS and high burst damage. Most units do not really have that. They either have one or the other. High DPS units tend to do it as a constant stream rather than doing it all at once. So that actually just gives you a sense of why Wraith Guard can be so dangerous, because it means they really are doing a huge amount of damage, and they can kill things very, very quickly. Ogrins, unfortunately, at this point, actually caught out of position away from the Lord General, going for the Wraith Guard, and the Wraith Guard actually do retreat. They're actually out of position themselves. Warlock leader goes down for the Wraith Guard, so they will go a little bit slower. They were also stunned, although they were also already in retreat. Ogryn's now actually in a very strong position. I think the Guardsmen should actually turn and start shooting, even going for melee on the Guardian weapon team to try for a potential wipe, but Torpid does not really react. He might actually still take out the Guardian weapon team. It's a very close call, and he might even chase after it with the Sentinel. Might still get it. Such a close call. Wow. Okay, so unfortunately a missed opportunity for Torpid right there. If he had gone for force melee with the Guardsmen and he also just had started shooting earlier, that would have been a definite wipe on that Guardian weapon team. We now have a Leman Russ out for Demon Hunter. It still has the main battle cannon. The regular main battle cannon is very stubby, not as long as the Vanquisher, and it also doesn't have as much space. It has a very short space between those like braces on the cannon. Alright, we still have double Guardian weapons teams. I actually don't know if it's really necessary for Torpid to, for MistuhSoftee to even get a Bright Lance, given that he has double Wraith Guards. He has his one Wraith Guard over here. He's got another one coming out. They will do a huge amount of damage to vehicles. Wraith Guard do melta damage, even though their attack looks the same as a D-Cannons. They don't do the same damage as a D-Cannon. D-Cannons do plasma. Wraith Guard do melta, although both of which are actually two of the best damage types in the game since they're good against everything. Plasma Cannon damage is actually a little bit better, since it's also anti-garrison and it does even more damage to everything, in fact, I think. But melta damage still very, very good. Bonus damage to super heavy infantry. I think full damage to infantry and heavy infantry, and then 0.75 damage to vehicles. So it actually has a slight penalty against vehicles, but it's still very effective against vehicles because of how high the damage is for the Wraith Guard, as well as the fact that, you know, many different damage types. Heavy melee even has a penalty against vehicles. It even has a bigger penalty than melta. So Leman Russ actually upgrades to the Executioner Cannon, which is a pretty good choice. This is the anti-infantry upgrade, and Torpid possibly reading that MistuhSoftee, with what he has so far, he's obviously committed to a really infantry-based army. He's got 7 different units, and his Warlock, so 8 infantry units. He's at 85 out of 100 population, so he's not really going to be able to get out some kind of different... He's not really going to be able to get out a vehicle, since he's used all of his population and resources on infantry squads. So a Torpid doesn't necessarily need he doesn't really need a Vanquisher cannon, I'd say. Unfortunately, he lost the Leman Russ. He just left the Wraith Guard shooting a little bit too long, and they actually took out the Leman Russ. I mean, just the Wraith Guard do so much damage. And of course, we do have the second one. This is also supposed to be an incredibly hard matchup for the Imperial Guard, in part because of these Wraith Guard. Although that's actually not the only reason. There are actually quite a few other reasons, but the Wraith Guard are definitely one of the biggest reasons, because they can just be so devastating to just about everything Imperial Guard has. They don't have... Imperial Guard does not have an actual jump unit, so they need to get pretty much their only melee unit, which are the Ogryns. Ogryns being the universal IG response to the Wraith Guard. And I like this too. He's also chosen to get the grenade launcher upgrades. And he chose to get that because that allows him to increase the speed of the Wraith Guard, and that's actually that's incredible. So now we have Ogryns going, I believe, at speed 7, or maybe even more. I don't know if the Lord General speed buff stacks with the speed buff that the Ogryns get from their Bonehead leader, although if it does, that's very powerful as well. And they can't be suppressed. The Lord General, he's gotten his Sergeant back, and he's going to want to use that to give the Ogryns medkits, so a lot right now is resting on these Ogryns. Ogryns might even they are going to take out the Autarch. Definitely, unless she can jump out of there, which I don't think she can, and she goes down. Either just slow reactions or just did not have enough energy. We have some very good use of webway gates from MistuhSoftee, being very annoying, and webway gates can especially actually be powerful with those Wraith Guard, again, because they can just come out of nowhere, You don't know where they are, and they just come out. A Manticore Strike going in, getting very close to wiping the Guardian Weapon team. I think this Guardian Weapon team, I was going to say maybe it's stuck, but I think just actually slow reactions from MistuhSoftee. MistuhSoftee, meanwhile, losing one of his Guardian Weapon teams. I did not see that. Now, at the same time, Torpid needs to be extremely careful with this Manticore because it can be taken out very, very quickly by the Wraith Guard. Pretty much, I think if the Wraith Guard actually get in range of the Manticore, I don't think Torpid will even be able to react. If they open fire, I think the Manticore is just going to die.
We're losing a requisition point. I hear you.
So he really needs to know like where those Wraith Guard are. He needs to be really ready to tie them up with his Ogryns. And I'm also just interested to see what are we going to see come out next from these guys. So Ogryn's actually just what are they doing? They're supposed to charge in. Go, and there we go with the Wraith Guard. They're going to start taking shots at the Guardsmen. The Guardsmen are, yeah, they need to get out of there. And wow, we have a new Autarch call-in. That was going to be an Autarch call-in on some suppressed Guardsmen. Who is this MistuhSoftee guy doing some pretty incredible things? But I mean, the Wraith Guard are also going to just destroy the bunker very, very quickly. And that's the end of the bunker. Just with how much damage they do. Wraith Guard are actually, they are one of, if not the highest range DPS units in the game. Autarch gonna go down again? Oh man, so yeah, unfortunately MistuhSoftee, he's been doing some good things, but his Autarch play, his actual Autarch play on the ground has not been good. Losing a second Autarch. Unfortunately, just not realizing what I said, which is that the Autarch pretty much should not be engaging the Ogryn. She does not want to do that. Just not a good situation for her. Wraith Guard needs to turn around and shoot. They will win this engagement if they turn around and shoot. They will lose if they just sit here and take it. And now this is lost for the Wraith Guard. Just taking too much damage. He can even just force melee. Yeah, I mean, force melee with the Guardsmen if they even decide to turn around and shoot. Unfortunately, either very misguided by MistuhSoftee or just not paying attention. I even wonder if he will lose the Wraith Guard, but I don't think he will. I don't think he can do enough damage to those tough heavy infantry armor Wraith Guard. But things, man, it's actually pretty close in a lot of ways. Hard to say who's really looking on top of things. But lately it feels like MistuhSoftee has been giving up more engagements. MistuhSoftee right now knows where this Manticore is. I wonder if we'll try to do something like put down a webway gate really close to here so that he can spawn his Wraith Guard out of the webway and then go for that Manticore. Alright, the Eldar are attacking over here. The Sentinel now not in such a great position, going for the decap off, but I think it can still make it out of here alive, running past the Dire Avengers. The Warlock, meanwhile, although we're seeing some good things from MistuhSoftee overall, I'm not too impressed by his Warlock play, and I don't really know what he's been doing with this Warlock. He's got the Witchblade of Kurnos, which he can use to counter the Ogryns, even if they are being buffed by the Carapace armor. Could also have gotten the Warp Throw as a way of dealing with the Ogryns as well. Wraith Guard in a bad position, so they're going to go into the Webway Gate, but that does give away the position of the Webway Gate. One Ogryn model goes down. I wonder if we'll even see the Vox Operator as a way of reinforcing the Ogryns out on the field and without having to pay any power. Oh, I was gonna say, for a second I thought we had double Ogryns, but we don't. Yes, we do, just kidding, we do have double Ogryns. I thought one was just like, I don't know, glitched with the webway, but that can't happen, I don't think. That being said, the Wraith Guard are glitched with the webway. They aren't actually here, it's just their model appears to be.
It's their Warlock!
Yeah, the Warlock, like right here, she should be shooting a Destructor. Definitely shooting a Destructor and not just going after them in melee. Would do a lot more damage, would like force the Guardsmen off.
Sir, our advantage is slight.
So I don't know why he isn't shooting a Destructor. And he, even though he's got the Witchblade of Kurnos, he's... Well, I mean, the Witchblade of Kurnos could be good against the Ogryns if he can actually position his Warlock in a position where the Ogryns are. But I almost wonder if the Immolator Blade would be a better choice. Overall, it's generally a better choice. Oh no, the Warlock now is just going to go down. Yeah, he's just going to go down. Got knocked over by the Creeping Barrage and just went down. You know, at this point, things are definitely going in favor of Torpid. He's really just been on the winning end of the last few engagements. And Torpid actually goes for the D-Cannon. Now, if he can just shoot the D-Cannon, focus fire the D-Cannon with everything he's got, as well as go with the Ogryn, he's going to take out the D-Cannon, and he does take it out. All right, so I think this is now pretty much going to be Torpid's game. I have a habit of calling things early, and MistuhSoftee definitely still has squads out on the field, but he doesn't have time. He would pretty much need to send something to go for a backup over here. Like his Dire Avengers that are capturing a requisition point really should actually be back here going for this victory point. That would really be a much better use of their time, especially at this stage of the game, because I think this is actually, I think MistuhSoftee is probably done here, really running out of time. He needs to get onto a point if he wants to stay in this game. But now there are actually going to be things protecting this point, so I don't actually see what he can do anymore. And it almost seems like he's not even trying. He's going to put this Dire Avenger squad on the point, or is he even going to do that? I would think he would at least make a desperate attempt, and now he is, but he's out of time. And at this point, that's it. That's it.
For the Emperor, sir.
All right.
Ever onwards.
And that is the end of the game. Hope you enjoyed it. Have a good night.